Well, good evening again, everybody. It's been a couple of months since we were last before you at the very end of the design phase. I think we've had a good welcome, so I'll just walk you through what we're going to talk tonight. We're going to give an overview of the project, talk about construction staging. There have been some changes to that. Construction impacts, traffic management, public outreach, which is of course why I am here. Next steps, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. At the end, so we'll try to get you through this relatively painlessly. We also this evening have two films for you to watch. One short embedded in the PowerPoint presentation, and one slightly longer from J.F. White, which will help you kind of understand some of the changes that have been made. So the notice to proceed was NTP was issued in August of this year. Construction duration, you'll learn more about this as we get into this, but you may remember the original design phase contract was supposed to go for about 5 years. The new duration is down to 6 months, less than that, 4 years, 6 months. 176 million in change is your project cost. So most of you are familiar with the site, but we'll go over it one more time. You brighten this up a little bit, mind the cord, sir. This is the north end, west end of the project. This here is Keeney Square, and we refer to that as we get through the evening. This is the Charlestown end, Paul Revere Park, what we call City Square. And then just to help people understand, rather than using cardinal directions, you'll hear me talk about the Lock side or the Charles River side and Boston Harbor side over here, rather than east and west, which don't necessarily make intuitive sense. So folks are familiar with the existing structure. Multiple attempts have been made to rehabilitate it over the course of 100 years, but it has had a long service life. At this point, more of that has been deemed imprudent and impractical. Just keeping it going in its current condition costs between $3 and $5 million a year, so it's an ongoing expense. It's been determined that the bridge really has to be replaced to ensure safety, accessibility, and long-term service. So what are you getting? What you're going to get is it's going to be a new bridge for the 21st century. People have talked about this as being a complete street over the water. And I'll talk about what that means. You get 2 vehicle lanes in each direction for a total of 4, so 2 inbound towards the city, 2 outbound towards Charlestown. For those of you who followed this since pre-25% and onward, there is a dedicated inbound bus lane on the bridge, starting just around City Square and then coming in across the bridge to help the buses speed up. We know that this bridge carries a lot of people on buses, so it's about moving people and not necessarily just cars. There are separated cycle tracks on the bridge. There are expanded sidewalks. I'll show you the cross section. They're quite generous. At the center of the bridge, there's a scenic overlook, which actually includes plantings. There's a widened navigational channel for boats and watercraft. Right now it's pretty thin under the bridge. You have the old center pier in the middle and kind of a split channel. This will give you a much wider channel, as you can see right here. And then, of course, it does have this lovely trellis on it designed to harmonize with the Zakim Bridge behind it, which is, of course, an icon of the Boston skyline. So this is what you get. This is the cross-section of the new bridge. So this is working. See, you can see the buses coming at us. So I'm working from the Lock side to the harbor side. So you begin on the Lock side with the 19-foot sidewalk and overlook area, a 7-foot cycle track protected from the traffic by the trellis structure and its base. Then your bus lane is 10 feet 6 inches. You have 4 vehicle lanes ranging between 10 feet 6 inches and 11 feet going across. Then you have the trellis structure replicated, another 7-foot cycle track, and another 19-foot pedestrian area and overlook. This is your cast of characters. You're going to get to know all these folks really well over the course of the next few years. I'm sure many of you know them already. The administrator for the contract is MassDOT District 6, the Highway Division. That's why you have the folks you have here tonight. The general contractor is J.F. White of Framingham. And then this is the wide assortment of coordinating agencies. City of Boston already noted. We have and will continue to work with the emergency services, MBTA, MWRA, DCR, the Park Service, and all the various stakeholders at the bridge. So this here is my one and only reference tonight to the original staging plans below that I went through many times. There were 6 stages that were originally thought of in the design phase. Those were 1A through 4B for quite a bit. I know that we stood in front of this room at the beginning of the year and said stage 1B, prior reducing bridge to a single lane direction, and that would have had a significant impact on traffic flow during August of 2019, next year. This project team, led by J.F. White, has explored innovations that's eliminated the necessity for that 1-in-1 stage. So this is the last reference to this you're going to see tonight. That 1-in-1 stage is now out. So this old graphic, you probably remember this one. Just want to tell you the difference between what you had and what you're going to get. And what allows that to happen is this temporary bridge, which takes off from City Square, bends off towards the box, carries 2 inbound vehicle lanes and a sidewalk over the bridge, and then carries a single outbound lane back towards Charlestown and into City Square. We'll get into how that's going to look and how that's going to work as we move through this, but that's really the innovation. The temporary bridge gets rid of the necessity for the 1-in-1 stage. And that's what that would actually look like. So you can imagine this is a snapshot in time of the day on which the temporary bridge is in place, and J.F. White has yet to slice into the old structure to make way for the new one. But what you can see here again is here's those 2 lanes coming in and 1 lane crossing back towards Charlestown. So what are the benefits of doing this? Well, chief off, and I've already mentioned it, eliminates that 1 lane in each direction, section 1B. It maintains access for all the modes that are there today with 2 inbound lanes, 1 outbound lane, and a sidewalk. It cuts your construction down by about 6 months. It expedites demolition of the old structure and the installation of the 40 drilled shafts, which will serve as the foundations for the new bridge. It does not require a trestle to launch things adjacent to the Charlestown Marina. One of the things that we find, and I've seen this personally doing a lot of projects, is anytime you have to shift pedestrians, what side of the bridge are they going to be on? You can remember me walking you through that in this room. How many times do we have to shift traffic? Am I on the new bridge? Am I on the old bridge? Where am I? Am I on this side? Am I on that side? That always causes confusion. It causes delay. It causes congestion. So this gets you down from 5 traffic shifts with the old version to 3 with this one. It reduces the number of nighttime lane closures. It gets us out of having to use the structurally deficient bridge to carry traffic while we're tinkering with it to remove pieces. And we'll get into this a little bit more, but it provides a new public playground in Paul Revere Park away from the active construction site. So this is what the temporary bridge is going to be like. As you can see, the Freedom Trail is striped on it. The Freedom Trail will remain open and striped throughout construction. The accommodations provided for the modes are equal to those in the original contract. The temporary bridge includes an 8-foot wide sidewalk, again with simplified routes and fewer shifts to pedestrians, less confusion. It is, full disclosure, that sidewalk is generally 8 feet wide coming from Charlestown and across the bridge. It pinches down to 6 feet 6 inches at the southern tie-in at the Converse building. And you'll see when I show you the video how tight this is up against the Converse building. It's maxed out. So this is a short video which shows you what life is going to be like crossing the temporary bridge. In case anyone in the audience is a WAG, full disclosure, there's probably more traffic on the bridge usually than what you'll see here. But we wanted you to see the pavement markings and the lane uses and what that would be like. So I'll show you the film. So beginning in City Square, crossing the bridge, 2 lanes in, 1 lane out, bending away towards the lock side past the moving truck, crossing the straightaway. Now you'll see we're getting ready to make that turn by Converse where the sidewalk gets narrow, so you can see pivoting, heading in towards Keene Square, Converse building right next to us, and then coming in Keene Square and making our next turn. So that's what that would be like. And again, there's a longer video about that later. So the playground. Currently, the playground is right here up against the bridge. It's an older playground, it's been there a while, but it is well used. And we wanted to make sure that that asset would be available to the Charlestown community. The temporary bridge is going to swing right through here, so obviously that can't be there. So through coordination with DCR, which is active and ongoing, a new site has been selected, and the goal will be to have a new playground in place here before this one has to go out of service. So let's talk about staging durations. I talked about how it saves you 6 months. This is the old setup. You can see stages 1 through 4B. This is the new setup, what we're going to do with the project at this stage now. Stage 1, 15 months. Stage 2, 23 months. That's where the temporary bridge is in place. Stage 3, 10 months. And stage 4, 6 months. You're chiefly getting a time saving in 2 major points. Demolition of the old structure and installation of the drilled shafts, both of which are 2 things that have an impact on the community. So it's good that those things are being shortened up. So this is what you're in right now. For those of you who live in the area and are familiar with the bridge, you know that the sidewalk from about here over to Charlestown is closed. That will be the condition more or less. The sidewalk closure is going to expand a little bit over the next few months. But right now, this is pretty much your configuration. Your sidewalk on this side is closed. Your work zone is here. That's allowing for the relocation of utilities. I know folks are familiar with this, but it's sort of a utility bridge that carries a roadway on top. The underside is all utilities. That allows the removal of the western sidewalk, removal of the fender system that guides boats underneath the bridge, and allowing for the construction of the temporary bridge to be completed in fall of 2019 to get started. So stage 2, that's your temporary bridge in. That goes from November of 2019 to October of 2021. Traffic and pedestrians are diverted onto the temporary structure, which provides the connectivity across the water. And then the whole old bridge, with the exception of the southwest corner, where we're having the lanes patch in, becomes work zone. So the bridge gets taken out, drilled shafts start going in, and that's your phase 2, which takes you out to the fall of 2021. Stage 3, you've actually built enough of the new bridge that you can keep your 2 lanes in and your 1 lane out, but it's all here on the new structure. And that allows you to be removing your old temporary bridge. You relocate everybody to the first half of the new bridge that you've taken out. Your southwest corner goes into, as part of the active work zone. You're no longer tied in there. And that takes you from November of 2021 to August of 2022. Stage 4 is really where you're finishing up. You pull out the last of your temporary bridge, and your work zone really constricts to this edge up here. And by this point, you have 2 lanes out, 2 lanes in, and you're working on this sidewalk and what will be the bus lane. And just to really drive that home, this is your old phase with that 1-and-1 section here. If you look, this had 4, 2, 3, 3, 4, and 4. If you look at this, the duration is shortened up, and you also never get below 3 lanes. You do not have that 2 and 2. And that gets you out to the final configuration, which is this, with 2 out, 2 in. The red is the bus lane coming across, and then this graphic down here, which we've already walked through once before. So let's talk about construction impact. So the project working hours are 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. It's expected that the contractor will work overnight between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. as necessary. All stages require some overnight work. There's been some early overnight preparatory utility work this fall, especially in stage 1, which is where we are now, for utility relocations and upgrades, and stage 3 for the steel erection. The periods of 24-hour work are really there to speed up construction during things that have an impact: steel installation and the traffic shifts. Noise. Maximum noise levels are specified in the contract. The contractor's already been out and obtained baseline noise readings, so we understand what life is like out there right now. The noise limits vary across the day, evening, and night hours. Obviously, you can make the most noise during the day and the least noise at night. That's the responsibility of the contractor to comply with the contract specifications and the City of Boston noise ordinance. So how does that work? So proactive noise protections are ready prior to work. As I mentioned, noise monitoring has been done. So we have the baseline, we know kind of what we're working against. There can be shielding of noisy operations with things called noise blankets. You actually, if you have a machine going, you can put these temporary screens up around it. JF white vehicles are being equipped with the white noise backup alarm, which makes kind of a whoosh, whoosh, whoosh instead of the beep, beep, beep. And there's also strategic means and methods. One of the things that's good about this is the way this job is set up is a lot of work happens from the water. So machines that are tied down to barges on the water sheet don't go beep, 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 or even whoosh, whoosh, whoosh as they back up. And then, of course, you know, scheduling operations, right? You know what you're going to be doing that day, and you try to pitch the noisier things to the times of day when people aren't trying to sleep. Dust. We know folks are worried about the dust. The contractor's health and safety plan includes on-site dust control. I have lived next to a MassDOT job site. Water is used to minimize dust emissions. It sounds primitive. It does work. Dust monitoring we conducted during the dust-producing activities, which, Rob, I always get this one wrong, so I'm looking at you to get it right, is chiefly during demolition of the deck on the structure. Is that correct? Yes. Excellent. You got it. So additional protections. We are behaving as though asbestos and lead are present. It's an old structure. It was painted many times. And in terms of asbestos, we believe it to be present in the outer casing of the lines which used to run across the bridge to the control room that was used to open and shut the bridge. So the contractor will follow all the right regulations to use, transport, and dispose of these materials. So all of those, any lead, any asbestos, that's all going to come off site and won't stay here. We know that this is an important waterway. There are fish runs that happen here. The contractor isn't going to be just dropping things into the water willy-nilly, and certain activities are limited to allow those fish runs to take place safely. And we know that from the Big Dig, you know, in the North End, folks are always worried about rodents. There will be an active baiting and trapping program throughout construction. I have lived with a MassDOT baiting and trapping specified program for the past several years, and I can tell you it does work. You'll see the boxes, you don't see the rats. So traffic management. The goal is really to provide early and accurate information, partially why we're here tonight, so the drivers can make smart decisions. We know that there are regional users of this structure who do not necessarily have to be here, and one of our goals is to convince them to be elsewhere if that is possible. We have, we're going to attempt very strongly to build traffic details at Heaney Square, City Square, and we heard from folks in Charlestown along Chelsea Street. Typically, we find that if City Square can be kept reasonably clear, you don't necessarily need to pay so much attention to Chelsea Street. But everything that I tell you tonight about traffic, none of this is sort of, hey, we set it up once and that's it. You're living with it all the way through the end of construction. All of this will be actively monitored by MassDOT, JF White, and BTD. So we're going to stay on top of all of this stuff. Regional signage is actually already out. These have already been placed. They are blinking out all of these messages. Just to give you a sense, on I-90, the first sign that people encounter is all the way, out by the Convention Center, down past Castle Island, in Dorchester Bay area on 93. And then for folks who might be coming in from the North Shore, which is where you would expect more folks to use this bridge, you're all the way out to beyond Revere Beach in Chelsea on Tobin Bridge, and here where 1A is getting ready to come into East Boston. So the idea is to really get people early and say, if you don't have to be there, maybe try something different. And that continues, that's a theme that continues all the way in. So I know the visual impact of this slide is designed to kind of, whoa, look at all that. So this blue circle right here is where the crossing is located, and all of these are various local signs on 93, heading down towards the seaport and up, past North Station and Sullivan Square up here. So again, really trying to saturate people and let them know what's going on. More locally, we know that this was an issue for folks in this room in May. The way the project is staged, this is the left turn off the bridge and onto Commercial Street. So you're heading this way towards the rink and the pool and the Coast Guard base. I'm going to call that the goal of the project is to make that left turn available throughout construction. It is going to be something that, full disclosure, will continue to be monitored. As you can see here, this is pretty short. In this drawing, that's about 4 cars long, Rob? About 4 cars. So there are periods during construction where you may encounter a left turn that's you probably all seen the arrow, right? You get your straight arrow and your arrow like that. You may encounter things like this, which is where it's fairly short. We may come to a point, again, monitoring traffic where we say, okay, during certain hours the left doesn't work, can't be there, we can do it now, we can do it later. But again, the principle is to stage the construction so that we can provide it at all times.
How long is that lane right now?
How long is the lane right now in the existing structure, Rob?
About 15 cars?
So 15. Well,
No.
7 or 8.
I just drove it today, maybe
Okay.
4 or 5. By the way the pylons are set up out there, you don't have 15 cars.
okay, so I'm hearing 7 or 8 from the. So in this regard, it's about half of what's there now. It's still there. It may not be great, but it's still there. So let's talk about the other side of the bridge. I'm sure this will be of more interest at the other end of the week. This is the single lane out heading to Charlestown. As I mentioned earlier, this is designed to be a complete street over the water, right? We want bikes and pedestrians to use this thing. Currently, there is a fairly high-speed slip lane that allows you to peel off of bridge and come down here. That's more of a highway condition. Pedestrians and bicyclists have a real hard time crossing this kind of configuration. However, because we know this is a single lane, we're going to keep this slip lane in operation during construction to try to pull this traffic on the single lane and really keep that moving. When everything is all said and done, you'll still be able to make a right turn onto Chelsea Street, no problem at all, but you'll come to the stop bar and you'll make a much more conventional right turn like that, which is, again, better for bikes and peds. Cars can still do it, but they have to slow down. We do note the presence of alternate routes, which we will notify people about. Obviously, there's already traffic on the other routes, but they are there and available. This represents the bridge right here. That's the blue circle. This is 93 northbound, crossing over the Charles River on the Zachem, going up to Sullivan Square, getting off, and let's just say that your destination is the Navy Yard. You can come back down Rutherford and get into Chelsea Street that way. Coming south, something slightly similar, using the levered connector. So this is where you come out of City Square, move around, levered connector, down along Nashua Street, down Lemesney Way, across the front of Causeway Street, and having you finish back up in Keeney Square where you were before. Now the next slide that I want to show you is normally presented by Amy Getchell of MassDOT. Her job brief really involved looking at this. She's unfortunately fairly sick tonight, so she can't be here, so I'm going to try to fill in for her. But this is a heat map, a snapshot of MassDOT projects in the Boston area. The ones that are chiefly of interest to us are number 1, Mystic River, so that's this bridge, Chelsea Viaduct, Tobin Bridge job, all the stuff that's going on in that part of the city, and then things heading on I-90 West, Route 9, heading out towards Newton and Framingham, things like that. So this map is kind of the graphical output of a joint effort between the Highway Division and the MBTA to look at the universe of projects that are going on, identify schedule conflicts and impacts to the public during construction, particularly on MBTA buses. We know that 111 is a major source of concern coming across this bridge. We think the temporary bridge provides some amelioration of that condition. This is another way that we're working on this. There is a thing called the Charles River Basin model, which is a traffic model maintained by MassDOT that looks at all of the projects in the Charles River Basin and allows you to think about, okay, if I make changes in one part of the basin, what happens in other parts of the basin. That's recently been expanded And it is consistently monitored between the headquarters at 10 Park Plaza and MassDOT District 6 to ensure that, as Amy always puts it, we're not diverting people from one route that we put under construction to another route that we put under construction. So that'll continue to be monitored throughout. If people have questions about that, we'll take them back, get them to Amy, and we'll give you a response through the usual channels. So outreach, what is life going to be like in terms of outreach? Construction look-aheads for upcoming work, those have been flowing since I think about September. The most recent 3-week look-ahead is up there now. It went up just before Thanksgiving. It's on the project website. Just Google MassDOT North Washington Street Bridge for the first thing that comes up. There's a brand new site, so do familiarize yourself with that. It's the new mass.gov look. There will be notifications for major operations. So for example, when we go to the temporary bridge, you would see an independent standalone release on that, in addition to being in the 3-week look ahead, in addition to being in your email inbox, in addition to public information meetings, flyer drops, etc. The 3-week look ahead is on the MassDOT project website, and if you give us your email address, it goes right to your inbox. At the same time, it goes to the website, so you don't have to Google it up for yourself. Public information meetings, we have 3 of them. The staff on this project have an ambitious week planned for themselves. So we have, tonight we're here with you. Tomorrow night we're in the West End at the Shriners Hospital at 51 Blossom Street. And we'll finish up in Charlestown at the Knights in Columbus on Thursday evening. I only bring these things to your attention just so that if you have friends in any of those communities, just let them know that we'll be there. They don't have to tune in on the website unless they want to. This is just giving you a sense of where we posted things, where you can find more information. There were flyers for this meeting dropped off at the local public libraries. The fact sheet that you all got, we sent deposits of those out as well. If you follow MassDOT on social media, that's tweeted out. The project website is carrying this information as well. So we're really trying to hit folks where they are, whether they follow on Twitter or read one of the local newspapers. Hopefully this stuff will get to them. And then social media, do tune in on that. MassDOT social media does a great job in broadening the outreach. And we think that'll be especially helpful when we get into switching over the temporary bridge, when you're really going to want folks stretching up here, up towards the North Shore and up 93 to understand what's going on. So what are our next steps? So I wanted to show you some target milestones. As you can see, it doesn't take you to the end of the project. It just takes you about 2 years. The next time you see us at a public information meeting, some of these earlier dates will drop off and newer future dates will move in at the bottom. So this is where we are right now, finalizing and implementing the temporary bridge. In February of next year, you'll begin to see pilings going into the riverbed for that. In April of 2019, the new playground will open as the old one closes to allow us to begin connecting, building those connectors out from the existing ends of the bridge to meet the temporary structure. And then, of course, you'll see that over the course of 2019 with the south tie-in coming up past Converse, Eversource cutting their cables over to the new structure. And then in December, that's when you would really see the traffic switch to the next bridge. So that would be sort of our next major, okay folks, pay attention, here it comes. And the demolition of the old structure would begin. And by January of 2020, you'd really be starting to see the old bridge vanish and being taken apart. Obviously, we should put the current look ahead in there, but it's all right because it would probably be too small on this slide to fit. But I can show you, if I back up, that is more or less what one looks like. That's a screen capture from the website. And then these are our contact, this is the contact information. There is a dedicated email address directly to Donnie Daly, who spoke earlier. It comes to myself. You can Google us. Do sign up to get those look-aheads delivered right to your inbox. At this point, before we go to questions, I want to bring Rob up, and he's going to show you the big video.
Can you put that back up so I can just grab it so I can consider to our ownership?
Oh, certainly.
Just the email address.
No problem at all.
So that they can,
Yep, it's on the website, so if you Google it and go to the website, and we will, for everyone who's desperately taking pictures with your phone, we will make this presentation Title VI compliant and put it up on the project website. So you'll be able to download it just the same way as all the others. And we'll also put the videos up as well. All right.
This video is going to go through each stage of the project. It's going to start with a snapshot of City Square each time, what the traffic pattern is in the city, then go over the bridge and we'll show the traffic pattern in Keene. So this is the existing conditions that we have right now. We have 2 lanes northbound and southbound on the bridge, and then going down into Keene with the left turn and right turn lanes. So the City Square right now we have 3 southbound lanes and left turn lane, and then northbound you have 3 lanes heading northbound with slip lanes going to Chelsea Street. And down at Keene we have the 2 through lanes and the right and left lane, and then coming north we have 2 through lanes. And the red line will really show where the Freedom Trail is. So when we hit stage 1, which we're in right now, we maintain the 2 lanes southbound, 2 lanes northbound. You can see the temporary bridge being built over on the right side. At City Square, you've got the 3 lanes southbound, the left turn lane, and the 3 lanes heading northbound. And down at Keene, it's 2 southbound lanes, dedicated right, dedicated left, and you have 2 lanes northbound, and everything on Crossroad is remaining the same. For stage 2, which is the big stage where you put the traffic on the temporary bridge. So they drive over the temporary bridge. As we turn into the temporary bridge, over where the playground is right now, all over the park. We hit the Converse building, we'll turn back around onto the existing bridge and into Keene Square where we have the 2 through lanes and the left and right. And this is where we're going to have to close the left turn lane to Chelsea Street and move it into the middle. That allows the traffic to flow over the bridge. You can see it's reducing the 2 lanes heading southbound. And this is an image of Keene Square at that time, where the 2 lanes northbound merge into 1 we go northbound on the bridge. 3 is where we're going to shift the traffic back on to the proposed bridge. You can see we're working on the west side of the bridge. We have 2 lanes southbound, 1 lane northbound. When we come up into Keene Square, it's going to be 2 southbound, the left and right lane. It's the shot of City Square during the stage. And then we have the shot of Keene Square during the stage, where traffic's merging into 1 lane and head northbound over the bridge. In stage 4, we're going to have 2 lanes southbound, 2 lanes northbound. You can see us working on the west side of the bridge. And we're going to head into Keene Square with 2 southbound lanes and the right lanes. And this is a snapshot of the City Square with the 2 lanes southbound, 2 lanes northbound, and the right turn to Chelsea. And a snapshot of Keene Square with 2 lanes northbound, 2 southbound, and turning lanes. And this is the final configuration. Drive over the bridge. 2 lanes northbound, 2 lanes southbound, with dedicated bus lane. Heading into Keene Square with 2 southbounds and a right and left. And this is a snapshot of City Square. The dedicated bus lane is where you see the big change. So 2 lanes southbound and left turn lane. And then heading northbound is 2 lanes northbound and a right turn to Chelsea Street. And this is what the Keene Square will look like in the end. You see the Keene lanes there, the bike lanes, and this is the final image of the bridge.
Thank you, sir. So for anybody who didn't get the contact information on the last go-around, I will just go ahead and pop that back up where we were. Done. All right. Questions? I'll go this way. Yes, sir.
Sure, I'll start it. Just a sort of curiosity about the contract. Was the temporary bridge bid as an alternate? If not, was it the subject of a change order? And if it's change order, what was the cost?
I think that's definitely one for Rob. Go for it.
There is a value engineering change proposal that we have presented to MassDOT. We are in the process of discussing that with them. So there is a way through the contract that we can come up with innovative ideas.
At no cost?
There's a savings that will be presented to MassDOT.
Which we will eventually.
When might we be told?
I don't know if this MassDOT released that information.
Let's say this, it'll be at no additional cost to the contract, the temporary bridge proposal. At a minimum, it'll be a no-cost change.
Okay, and then the other question I had about the contract is there a bonus for early completion and a penalty for late completion?
Yes, there is.
Both.
Can you tell us what they are?
$7 million for being early,
Per what?
for being 6 months early.
The 6 months that you saw, the 6 month savings.
The maximum incentive is 7.2 million. That's the most that they can achieve if they come in
But the period,
6 months early.
the period that the bonus applies to is weeks, months,
6 months.
just months?
6 months.
So then it's not really 56 months? Or it is? I mean, there were
4 months.
4 months.
4 months.
So is that when it's going to be completed, or that's when the bonus, if they finish early?
Well, 54 months is considered early, that's the use.
The current contract is 60 months. As we do it in 54, we get the bonus.
Final question.
That's okay.
Also, just curiosity, navigation, will the temporary bridge affect heights of ships?
No.
Boats going through?
No.
No.
We are maintaining the same elevation of the existing bridge.
Will the new bridge be the same as the existing bridge, or will it be perhaps higher?
It's same height. Oh, it's higher.
Oh, higher. Oh, guys.
Yeah. It's wider too.
The height, how much higher?
It's actually the
I'm a
same-
sailor, and I
it's the
wondered
same height.
whether I would have to drop my mast to get to,
So it's actually stuck with the same height because the utilities on the driveway.
say it again?
The new bridge is the same height as the existing bridge because of the utilities that constrict that. The utilities on the bridge keep us from raising the proposed
The
bridge.
utilities can't be raised.
No, not the transmission lines that.
The electric line is enormous. It feeds all of Charlestown. That's the only line into Charlestown apparently. That's it. Fairly serious.
They can't be moved, they have to be held at elevation. You will have to drop your mask.
Yes, sir.
There's an underpass on the north, on the Keeney Square side,
Yep.
that wasn't mentioned at all in this. Previously it was gonna close for some portion of this, I assume it still is, but do you have any?
Still does, yep. So that will be, the closure of that comes, remember how I said, right now you got the sidewalk on the west or lock side of the bridge closed, but you can kind of still walk out there. As we get further into December, Rob's gonna correct me if I get this wrong, but the stairwell going down to Lovejoy is gonna close because the work zone is gonna come too close to it. And at that time, you're gonna lose that Harbor Walk connection underneath the bridge. The rest of the area, the rest of that nice area that's back there will remain open. You can still walk down, but you won't be able to pass underneath because it won't be safe anymore.
The harbor walk gets completely removed and rebuilt.
Right, I know, and is that for the entire 4.5 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
If you looked at increasing the green light duration at both ends, at our end, to allow more traffic to turn left, given the shorter queue. But also, on the other end, if it's only during the time that it's one lane, there's a risk of it all backing up into Keeney Square. So are you planning to lengthen the green cycle on that?
Are you planning to change the signals right away? I mean, typically, that's the kind of thing that you would monitor. You wouldn't necessarily immediately go to a preemptive strike on
So you
changing the
haven't
green
modeled it.
time.
I figured by now you would have modeled.
We do have it modeled, we have it optimized for each stage, and then we continue to monitor and tweak it as needed.
Because already there's quite a backup turning onto Chelsea Street. And then my other question has to do with bicycles. It seems like unless there are dedicated bicycle crosswalks, I'll call them, bicycles may end up using pedestrian crosswalks. That's already a dangerous situation. I've been almost hit many times in crosswalks by bicyclists that think that a crosswalk is a bicycle lane. Any accommodation for keeping bicycles separate from pedestrians at crosswalks?
So on the structure, and I wish I could make the projector work for me correctly. On the structure, as you saw, they're separated, and I believe, as we saw in Rob's excellent video, the new additions, I'll do it from this one. So these are your bicycle crossings, so there are bicycle crossings out there. So if you look here, this green one, that's the bicycle crossing.
Great.
And then this is the independent pedestrian crossing right there.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes, sir, in the back.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to talk about nighttime work noise. I want to thank you guys for coming back out tonight, and I also want to just thank Amy Gretzel, who's already responded to several of my emails, so I really appreciate that, and definitely easing my stress level. So what I would love to know is who is, or can I have the contact information of your PM who's on site at night? We've already had several instances where we're dealing with midnight, 12:30 jackhammering, and other noises that are not that swoosh, swoosh sound of backup noises, and extremely loud. I live about 5 buildings in on Prince Street, so the noise is a really big deal. And my understanding from Amy is Boston Police have actually kind of overstepped and will not allow work during event nights, which obviously the garden has a lot of events, which means they don't break up till around 11. And that means that's when they're going to start work, which is a huge concern for us who live right next to this work zone. So I would love to know who I can contact directly, and also who I can pass around to my neighbor, so I'm not the only crazy guy who's out there at 12:30 saying, what the hell's going on?
So Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about coordination between us and you guys? I know there've been some meetings about that, just before we go into who gets what phone number.
Well, I guess as a first principle, the police are correct in interpreting what's in the contract, which says that there can be a delay of work on nights when there are events at the garden. That's by design, because we have thousands of people we're trying to get in and out of the city around an event. And I think what's happened largely as a result of that is much of the work has been shifted to daytime off-peak. Not all of it, as a way to try to do stuff that's noisy, and we're going to continue to encourage the contractor to be doing that approach if they find that it's too difficult to work around the garden restrictions. I just want to back up to this gentleman's question too, and reassure people that the City of Boston Transportation Department, like you, wants the contractor and the consultants supporting the contractor to continue looking for ways to make sure that we're getting the maximum benefit out of the signals. And we're also, calling the question, how much more can you do for the length of the left turn lanes? So we think those two things are important to continue to study. The good news is we're a year away from the major change that we want to be ready for, because for this year, which is part of the first 15-month phase, you're largely getting the roadway that you've had on the bridge. In fact, you got back another lane recently when they were able to do some of that work that was required to maintain the bridge, to keep it open. And I would go back to this gentleman's list of reasons why the side bridge is good and underscore the one that says you have less time when you're trying to use the existing structure. So we think that that's a major benefit unto itself, and we just want to try to make sure that what else happens around using that side bridge it optimizes the flow of traffic while we're constantly discouraging people from outside of the town from going through there if they can find a better way.
Excuse me, yeah, to answer the question.
Thank you. I still want to know who to call or who to email. 'Cause honestly, at 12:30 at night, I'm reaching out to somebody, so I just want to know who to call.
That would be me, Ahmad Williams, the project engineer.
Can I get your phone number?
Yes, after the.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
The other concern that I already have, a problem that already exists, is on the far left-hand side, the traffic coming from Commercial Street up to King Square, that straight-through lane, people have been taking a right turn onto the bridge there. And is there any way you can prevent that from happening?
I don't think design-wise, you can. I mean, this is the final condition, this is the, this island is here, right? So if you're here in your auto and you've come up here and you've decided for whatever reason not to use this lane, which doesn't make any sense to me, but if you did, you're already, you're kind of pointed this way, so you're making a very uncomfortable turn. So the design...
The reason they're not using that lane is because they don't want to be in the long queue.
Because it gets backed up.
Right. Yeah, and I think, outside of that, outside of making the turn uncomfortable to take, because you need to, provide this movement across, you can't make the island, too aggressive. The only thing that I'd say is that this is one of the two squares where we'd be looking to have a police detail present for most of the time. So a cop sitting there will perhaps dissuade some of the bad behavior and help to try to adjust folks' perspective while they're having the construction.
Now,
During construction, that's the final condition.
Right.
For most of the time, there will be two lanes going towards Charleston.
It's 2 lanes in, 1 lane out.
One lane out.
1 lane
On
out.
the temporary bridge?
On the temporary bridge,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then you're gonna get this merging and those people. are
The
trying
only
to
thing
take
that I'll
out all
say
these
in
people.
favor of this, and I know everybody goes, oh, a single lane on the bridge, geez Louise. And I know you've lived with it over the summer, and I've sat through it going to the Green Line extension, where is another place in Howardstein Hudson is working. It's not great. The one thing I'll say is that in these conditions, and I'll take you back a little ways to this. So, I did the public involvement for MassDOT's Four River Bridge, which had, a 1-in-1 phase when a temporary bridge that had been there for many years was pulled out of service because you had the same thing we've got here, right? At some point, the temporary bridge has to reconnect, and you have to get everything to fit. You can get quite a bit of utility out of the single lane, provided you continue to have, the same number of outbound lanes at the intersection. And so I think this slip lane here, and obviously this is stuff that's going to get monitored, and Jim will tell me I'm wrong if I am, but what I've found is that provided that you have the capacity to get out of the intersection, people can sort themselves pretty well coming out of that lane. Won't be perfect, but at least some of that capacity for turns and throughput at the intersection is still there. Yes, sir.
Hey, is it possible to make 2 lanes going out and switch it to 1 lane on specific times? Like coming into Boston, 2 lanes obviously, but going out at night, make it to 2 lanes.
So I will take an initial stab at that, and I'll look to Rob. One of the things about when you do the, I'll take you back a little bit to actually the video. So take a look at what you see here. As we're going over the bridge, in the turns, you're delineated by these flex posts, which are actually screwed down to the bridge. So that's, a safety thing to help people stay separated. So trying to, I don't know exactly how hard it would be, but screwing and unscrewing those things.
Cones.
The problem with cones, and I've been through this on a different project, is if you use cones, you actually have to have more space around them, and we're already tight for space as it
Mark, I
is.
think you'll have a problem from the MBTA on that one, because the 111 bus brings in so many passengers, bringing inbound out to 1 lane, even if you're considering the evening commute, it would be troublesome.
We did look at the traffic counts, and the peak hourly volume in the afternoon is the same north and south, believe it or not. There's as many people coming in and going out. So that's why that wasn't built in the front.
It will be flipped to 2 lanes, northbound 1 lane, southbound after garden events.
Another question is, because a lot of people are gonna try to avoid this, they're going on Hanover Street to get on 93. We have a problem with valet, I don't wanna, that's another meeting. Problem with valet and keeping Hanover Street clear, so people are gonna take that detour to, including me, to get out of the north end, because right now it's like impossible to get out of the north end. And,
It's fun driving in here, yep, I agree.
and, it's just, it horrendous. Hanover Street, forget it, it's just off the, getting attempted, you have to go down Haymarket to get onto 93, that entrance. But it has nothing to do with you, this would be the city parking, traffic and parking to take care of the valet and the congestion on Hanover Street, because a lot of, like I said, a lot of people are gonna use that detour.
Yeah, and I think, and the city is here and listening, I'm sure Maria is taking notes and Jim's taking notes. And the other thing I'll say is that, you now have on your phone, the different parts of the map light up different colors, so before people, they can kind of know before they go. So Hanover Street's already congested, it's gonna light up red, and people are gonna go, do I really do it? Do I go somewhere else? What do I do? Yeah, I know, Hanover Street's always congested, but, maybe you get a few out of there. It's congested, because it's a nice place to be, it's lovely.
Congested because the valley takes advantage of everything.
Well, I'm not gonna say that.
Everything's all their work's being done in the middle of the street, even though they have 40 spots. Anyway, one more thing.
One more, sir, go for
Is
it.
that the name of the bridge? Is this what it's gonna be, the North Washington Street Bridge?
That's what it's called, and to my knowledge, that's what it shall stay, but if other people have other ideas, I guess I'm open to them.
We'll defer that one to the city.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, we call it the Charlestown Bridge, Charlestown calls it the North End Bridge. It's the end of the Charles River, how about the Charles End Bridge?
Smash up! Yes, sir.
I don't want to sound pessimistic, I'm just curious.
Please don't.
On other meetings, you had mentioned that about at one time there wasn't going to be a left turn coming into King. Now, thank God, you at least some sanity, you got a left turn.
Okay.
But you did mention that sometimes during the construction, you may have to close that.
Could.
Can you show us what the alternate route would be if you can't make that left turn? How are you going to get through the north end?
I don't have a great map that really shows you. One of the reasons that we went to this, the film again. Let me see if I can't find something a bit more regional. One of the reasons that that's there, and we're trying to put it back, is, that's not tight enough. That's not really great either.
It's not great.
Yeah, it's not pretty. It's a long way around. You wind up having to go, down towards Haymarket and around. And I think if you were really going to do it, let's think. If you kind of do what I did today, coming down from Beacon Hill, which is you come across the bridge, down past Haymarket, down towards the site of the old open air market, and you actually take that left turn on Hanover. It is not lovely, which is why we're trying to provide the left turn there. And the only reason that I was, careful about what we said is the left turn that you have here, there may be times where it doesn't work great. It's going to be one of those things where it's going to be a constant monitoring issue between the contractor and the city and MassDOT. So if it should be taken away, that's the kind of thing that we would tell you about. We wouldn't just go out there and it's gone. But that's, it is, I've talked about it as a left turn in principle. The goal is to provide it to you through all stages of construction.
And just, if I could add to that, the city is firmly in the camp of keeping the left. And so we'd have to really be convinced that there's some extenuating circumstances that dictates that it's prudent, even if it's for a couple of weeks, to not have the left. We'd want to have a really compelling case made to us before we could, say that makes a whole lot of sense.
Jim, the main reason I brought it up is I'm thinking of public safety.
Yep.
If for whatever reason they block the left, they got to make sure that the alternate routes, they make sure that the police don't let delivery trucks and stuff like that, because people will go to use the alternate route and all of a sudden there's a delivery truck, traffic backs up, it could be, an ambulance and fire trucks. We're always concerned in the north end, it's congested as it is.
Yep.
I don't care if it's for one day, you gotta make sure that if the left turn was not allowed, you've gotta make sure that the police clear the alternate route and put a lot of signs so people don't get going the wrong way and so forth.
Yep.
People get so frustrated, it gets very dangerous when you see cars going down the one-way streets the wrong way because they just can't stand, there's no way around.
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have additional concerns about the egress on Commercial Street as you're heading either to take the right to go over to Charlestown or to go straight onto Causeway.
Do you want to see this graphic or the finished
Now,
graphic?
it's just that, as was mentioned earlier, about maybe 10 minutes ago, where the light is and that little building, and as was rightly said, it already backs up now for people that are taking the right turn. And so some people are tempted to go into the middle lane and then try to go to Charlestown anyway. My concern is this, is that it already is congested and it backs up to the bocce courts. What, if anything, does the city intend to do about removing the right of the funeral home to have double parking there? They park on Commercial Street from the funeral home when there is a wake or a funeral, all the way past the ice skating rink, past the bocce, past the 2 baseball fields to the beginning of the Coast Guard. So you already have 1 lane half the time anyway. And
So
all this will just make it,
having worked with Jim on other construction projects around the city, he is very deft at parking stuff. But
and
I
there's
think-
an empty pay parking lot right next to it, which,
I think that might be a case of some specialized outreach towards the funeral home, just from both ends. So thank you for bringing that to us.
Thanks, I'll work with other people in the department, try to see if we can come up with a solution for that.
because that just would cripple everything.
What's the name of the funeral home, just so we have it for the record?
Langone Waterman, I think.
Okay. Yes, sir, again.
So I won't talk noise, sorry. Can we just, the same, I guess I'm looking at Causeway Street coming towards Keeney, basically from the garden. Right now, there are 2 left-hand turn lanes that merge into a single lane over the bridge.
Yep.
So right now, that queues up. Everybody coming in a double lane all of a sudden blocks the entry, so you can't get through there. And the other challenge is the 3rd lane that's actually closest to whatever that building is, that side, thank you, is a right-hand turn, but it's also timed exactly the same time the pedestrians are crossing over from the north end to get to the garden. So as soon as the pedestrians start, the cars stop like they're supposed to, so that lane does not move. Is there any thought about reworking the lanes so that there would be a right-hand lane, which is the one with the pedestrians, a straight-through shot down the middle, and then the other lane, which is closest to the bridge and the left-hand turn, so that you could at least get some movement through there, and kind of looking at a broader reach of some of those traffic turns at that intersection from the other side of the garden, or the intersection at Keeney.
I'm not personally aware of any such plans. Have you seen anything like that?
Not yet.
So if we, might be something to go to if we have to go there.
Just to comment on that, that middle lane used to be.
It used to be
or
straight.
left, and it worked fine.
No, we talked about that at the,
Yeah.
you and I were out in, we went to the Strata briefing and you and I were out laying in traffic, I recall.
Or at least a combination, it used to be, I think, but yeah, it's a problem right now.
Again, BTD thinks all those ideas need to be explored, and we've talked about some of them ourselves. And that's why I say it's good that we've got the year before they implement the major change, so that we can sort some of these things out, while we've still got fuller capacity on the existing bridge.
And that brings up, when are you coming back?
So at present, my thought, and you know, there are other people that I would discuss this with, John Daly, over there, members of the District 6 group. Obviously, we don't necessarily want to come out just to tell you, hey, here's what we're doing. My thought would be is that probably the next round of meetings will be in the fall next year, associated with going to the temporary bridge. That's what we've kicked around internally. But if there's a need for, you know, a briefing, if some community group has been missed, all of you who, you know, went through the design phase, you know, we were at Strata, we were at the Amy Lowell House in the West End, we went to various locations, community groups in Charlestown, talked to a number of different outfits. So it doesn't mean we'll disappear, but my current thought is the next sort of, you know, big round of these events where you might see us out, you know, 1, 2, 3 nights in a row would be as part of the prep to go to the temporary bridge. But if we need more, we'll do more.
Right, and Jim, as we go through the steps to try to work with, you know, the engineer of record and the White's traffic engineer to try to optimize these intersections. there's information related to that, you can go up through the website. It's in Little Water Street.
To try to get folks, neither you nor you have spoken yet, so we'll start there and work this way since I went that way the last time. Go for it.
For projects like this that have regional impact, do you guys work with like Google and Waze and all that to like shut off this? I mean, I know you can't really like legally shut it off as an option, but people get sent, they look at Waze and they don't even think, and they just drive and all of a sudden they're sitting in this.
So yes, again, you're quite correct. As long as it's public right of way, you can't shut it off. However, some of the work that we did on the Arbor Way down in Forest Hills, that instituted 2 median U-turns to process left turns as rights at the major intersections. And when everybody was picking up their kids from school this past spring, because there's a lot of college kids in Jamaica Plain, we saw all these out-of-state cars taking what had become an illegal left. And my office actually did reach out to those outfits. We do have those contacts. Believe it or not, TomTom, remember TomTom when it was an independent unit? They are still out there providing, but they still provide the back end to the iPhone, to all these things. So yes, when the time comes, we'll be reaching out to those folks and letting them know what the conditions are there. Again, they may still choose to direct people down there based on their algorithm, but at least the people who are behind the algorithm can say, oh, there's only one lane coming in from Charlestown. So we'll let them know.
Well, if you came up with a map.
I'm almost 40. I'm too old to do that. The only thing that I can concoct is something that would sit on people's iPhones going, do not drive on the North Washington Street Bridge. No, I really mean it.
Oh, we need to know.
Was there one back? Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
I got a question. When you switch over to the temporary bridge,
Yes?
will the project have a tow truck?
Will
Stand
the
by
project
just
have a
in
tow
case
truck?
someone breaks down?
Yes.
Yes. Do you want a tow truck?
That'd be nice.
Dr. Rob? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Will it be parking on the new temporary bridge for the Freedom Shell? I assume so.
Yes, yes. It will be stamped on there. In fact, I can show you what that is.
It's inside.
Yep. Got my thing working?
And also, have you thought of taking the Harbor Ferry, maybe one?
There you go. Right there.
Any thought of taking the Harbor Ferry from Charlestown to Atlantic? Or more frequent, people will take a walk over there maybe?
So right now, I think beginning in January, there will be a ferry service from Lovejoy Wharf heading down towards the seaport, coming under the auspices of MCCA. So it's a pilot program, so they'll see how that works.
So that's going to start in January?
Yep.
What about to, Longwood?
Take people off the bridge, they walk to the bridge, it goes over to Charlestown. I'm thinking people walk up,
Will it stop at Longwood or goes to Cambridge?
I don't know that, but I know that
It'd be
it's a
great
pilot
if it
program.
is,
Yeah.
if it will stop, because it's far
That's something we
for the north end.
face. Yep.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions.
That's fine. No problem.
Just so it's clear, phase 1, 15 months, that started in November of this month?
It's been going, we've been in phase 1 for about 2 months. The sidewalk closed.
Since August.
Yeah.
Since August. I'm not an immediate butter to the construction, so
Right.
my paramount concern isn't noise necessarily, but traffic control. And I'm curious, with the implementation of the temporary bridge, are you going to be directing bikes around the bridge, or are they supposed to be sharing the pedestrian pathway over the temporary?
So what we believe is sort of this, and this is something that again we'll have to keep monitoring. As you all noted, there is some traffic on the bridge. It doesn't move all that fast at certain times, certainly commuting times. The bridge itself, the lanes, and the sidewalk will both be better accommodations for bicycles in terms of traction and comfort than what is out there today. I would expect probably that during construction, the confident cyclist will likely opt to, cross the bridge with traffic. And probably, or I've decided to take my hubway over to the Navy Yard because I'm here for vacation. We'll probably dismount and follow the Freedom Trail. That would be what I would expect to see based on other projects in the city. It isn't great in terms of a bike accommodation, but it's better than what, believe it or not, the temp is better than what's out there for a bike today, what with the open grid deck. And of course, when we get to the end, it will be streets better.
So my experience, I don't drive a lot, I drive occasionally. My experience coming from City Square over the bridge inbound has been that the traffic hasn't been too bad. I try to avoid rush hour, but sometimes I have to drive in the mornings.
Yeah.
The traffic isn't too bad when there are 2 lanes open going over the bridge. The times when I've sat in a long delay coming over that bridge is when it's been temporarily shut down to 1 lane or whatever emergency repair.
So you're talking inbound, right?
Inbound, right.
So the temporary bridge has 2 lanes inbound, so that's the goal.
Right. So can you give us any assurances that it'll never be 1 lane going inbound? It'll always be 24/7, 2 lanes going in?
24/7 is probably not correct. I think, and Rob, you help me out here, but I would imagine that the goal would be to provide those 2 lanes during the peak hours, right? Right now, certainly off-peak, I know that there have been inbound, lane takings off-peak.
What condition are we talking about? When the
Temporary bridge.
Temporary bridge.
Temporary bridge.
The temporary bridge is in place, we'll have 2 lanes southbound.
24/7?
24/7.
There will be sometimes down by the Converse building, we'll have to close the right lane, but that'll be off peak hours.
You also have situations, post-garden events, where that will go one lane inbound, and 2 outbound, 2 back, the garden event, so that
That leads me to my follow-up question, and that has to do with, right now, I don't know what's going on in Sullivan Square, but it's a mess. There's some sort of construction going on in Sullivan Square. Maybe the city representatives know about that. So it's constantly gridlocked, regardless of the time of day, particularly bad during rush hour. So I'm wondering, is whatever going on in Sullivan Square, whatever construction project is going on there, is that going to be completed before the construction, before phase 2 begins?
Yes. The work you're referring to is some mitigation work that the Wind Encore folks are doing in advance of opening the casino. There were a number of items that were required of them. One of the most notable for this project, and the way it can help this project, is that'll be done in the spring. That'll provide the first time. The City of Boston's traffic center will have connection to all the traffic signals up through Sullivan Square and heading over to the Alfred Street Bridge. So the Alfred Street Bridge, done. The wind work in Sullivan Square, done. And the ability for the city to manage traffic after those 2 projects are done will be enhanced because we'll have conduit for the first time running all the way up through Sullivan Square, all the way across the bridge into Everett. We'll be able to connect a bunch of signals. Under the contract that we're talking about here tonight, there's a number of traffic cameras that are going to be added to give us a better view, for instance, where Land Boulevard and the Gilmore Bridge come together. We'll be able to see over there. We'll be able to see a lot of different pockets of activity because the equation for us is not what happens it's not just what happens in the 2 intersections at the end of the bridge. It's what are people doing in the general area around here? Because, for instance, the Bridge Circle needs to handle a lot of traffic, hopefully, because people are going over Gilmore and using that as a way to connect into Boston instead of using this bridge. So we want to keep an eye on all of that. We asked the Mass DOT folks, and they agreed and put into the contract a number of other cameras that we used while the Longfellow Bridge was under construction, and additionally about 6 or 7 new ones under this project for gaps that we saw in the coverage plan. We'll be able to see all of this from our traffic center. And from our traffic center, one of the cardinal rules I've talked to Bob about is they've got to make sure they don't touch the cable that runs all those signals on the other side in Charlestown, because it goes right over his bridge. And I keep on telling them every time I have a chance, put fluorescent paint on it, make sure nobody touches it, make sure it never fails to continue to connect us to the cameras and signals up there.
So what's the completion date of the Sullivan Square?
Sullivan Square is prior to the June opening.
Prior to the
June opening of the casino, they're gonna be done with all of that work.
2019.
Yes,
And-
2019.
And phase 2 of this project doesn't start till December of 2019, that's correct?
Correct.
All right. And then, I guess a related question has to do with electric and utilities. There's not just electrical cables currently going over the bridge, but there's a gas main and water. Why do they have to go, why can't those be buried? Why do they have to go over the bridge? That just seems an antiquated way of maintaining utilities lines. I mean, if you're tearing down the bridge, it seems to me that would be a golden opportunity to make an enhancement and get them off the bridge altogether, put them under the water, underground. Why can't that be done?
How would you get it? How would you get access to actual drilling?
I mean, I was in the early sessions of these where I know several of my neighbors asked, why can't we have a temporary bridge and avoid all these lane closures and reductions? And I believe the explanation at the beginning was it wasn't feasible, either from a construction viewpoint or more likely financial consideration. I suppose since that early stages of those public hearings, the people involved in this project have demonstrated that they can build a temporary bridge with no additional cost to the project. So that's why I assume it's being greenlighted now, where before it seemed that it was being dismissed out of hand. I would think that the same kind of thought and study would take place with something as important as gas, water, and electric lines, is finding alternative ways of finding a better way to keep those viable. No?
I would defer to the, design team, District 6 folks. I mean, I know that they're big scary utilities, that's about it.
The concern is the access to the lines, because of the high right of the gas line, putting them under water. It's a 115 kV at the source line that is up there now that we have to protect, contract has to protect. In fact, we are putting a 24-inch temporary gas line on the bridge, and then we have to take that down and put a 36-inch gas line on there. So I guess we understand your question, but the dynamic of that, especially what's going on in North Shore, that I don't know.
How about the harbor walk? What are you closing that down?
So the harbor walk comes out probably middle of December. So remember I talked earlier about how the sidewalk closure on the bridge would kind of expand outward. So right now we've left the staircase is open and the harbor walk is open. Probably about the middle of December, the harbor walk will close because it won't be safe to walk under there with all the activity. And the staircase coming up from Lovejoy Wharf will also close because that will be too tight for the rest of the
I was over there walking my dog today, and I noticed you've got some chain link fencing that looks like it's in queue, ready to go up and close it on what I assume is the underpass off at some point. I would just suggest that you use extra security in terms of installing those fencings, because typically the chain link fencing around construction sites I've noticed are pretty easy to get around, and any ambitious teenager or homeless person could get around them. And I would suggest that if you don't take extra precautions in securing the fencing, that you're going to be creating a gated community for people underneath that bridge.
Well, at some point, the harbor walk that's under there will be taken out so that if they climb the fence, they go for a swim. But I think Rob here too.
Okay. And the other thing, during the demolition phase, has a study been done in terms of hazardous materials that need to be contained during demolition? I'm assuming there's no asbestos on the bridge, but there are other considerations about just hosing down with water. Are there other precautions that have to be made during the demolition phase?
There is asbestos on the bridge.
There is.
Yes, so it's a bag and touch type situation.
So all the asbestos is going to be removed before the final demolition?
Yes.
Okay, the last part has to do with traffic control again. And I know one of the keys to the plan is reducing regional traffic by having alternate routes. And obviously, Sullivan Square is going to be instrumental in terms of providing an alternate route for northbound and southbound traffic. But has anyone thought about how are you going to incent people to take the alternate routes rather than just continuing? Because traffic right now on 99 and over the Charlestown Bridge is gridlocked for good portions of the rush hour every morning and evening, and it doesn't seem to deter people just by it being gridlocked. So, is there a way of maybe during the construction project of reducing or eliminating the toll on the Tobin Bridge in certain directions to motivate people to take alternate routes rather than just suggesting that they take alternate routes?
I think we can, from the end of this project team, I'm here to help suggest it as hard as I can. I think any kind of tolling would happen at the level far beyond our day-to-day. So I wouldn't want to touch that one. That's a sensitive topic.
But I mean, I'm just throwing that as an example of actually getting regional traffic away from coming through the area. I mean, there must be other ways than just putting up flashing signs saying, bad idea.
Well, I mean, there are other things aside, flashing signs saying bad idea. One of the things that Donnie and I have batted around is, ensuring that, local governments on the North Shore are aware of this, outreach to a more regional delegation. So it's coming from people's elected leaders, and not just, all those guys and that stuff. That's the tool that's
I
in
want to take that question back.
Yeah.
Because I believe the MBTA is looking at some, we may have implemented some programs already from some of them offshore, Chelsea, as far as encouraging use of the commuter rail from Chelsea, downtown Chelsea, into North Station. So it's may want to follow that.
We'll look further, yeah. We have people who talk.
One last very specific question, and that has to do with the congestion in Key Square and how to avoid making it any worse than it already is. I noticed the video, one of the videos that you showed of traffic zipping along very nicely over the temporary
It's
bridge.
shown zipping along very nicely so you can see the pavement.
Right.
It's fair. I said it's a fair warning.
It's beautiful, and hopefully we can replicate that traffic speed during the project. But
You'll have to listen to the music too.
Yeah.
I noticed that the only traffic you had turning right off of the bridge in Key Square was bus traffic. I'm assuming you're going to allow car traffic to make that right turn as well, aren't you?
Yes.
How are you going to negotiate that merge into Key Square and avoid backup onto the bridge? Is any thought been given to having an alternate route where only buses are allowed to make the right turn off the bridge and then all of the through traffic has to turn on the other side of Key Square somewhere?
The bus is mostly go straight through. I think, I don't think any bus takes the right there. 111 goes straight, the 93 goes straight. Doesn't stop, it's right at
Relative to the buses too, if you look at this picture of the next block heading down on Washington Street, the city's going to take that car and open it up for buses.
They're going to take the parking off the street?
On the edge, they have to try to get buses, once they get into Key Square, a freer shot to get down to.
So that's going to happen?
Yeah, in the spring. So again, before we get to next year, when the side bridge comes into play.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Quick look at the temporary bridge condition. For those cyclists who opt not to fight the traffic on the traffic lanes and to use the pedestrian area, would you please put several signs up saying, this is a sidewalk, please walk your dogs?
Yes,
Can you make that sign?
We were talking about that about 2 hours ago.
Not that sign, those signs.
There are signs that say dismount your bicycle.
More than one. More than one on each end.
How many?
I don't know exactly how many.
More than one.
Just give you one.
So bicycles won't be allowed to be ridden over the pedestrian bridge. They're only be allowed to ride in the traffic lanes.
Yes, that's the goal.
That's the way it should be.
So we did that a long time, and it was, successful some days, other days not so successful, but.
How was that successful?
Well,
People choose to go inside.
pedestrians,
There was an
bikes and bikes.
there was an adequate enforcement.
So there is no way to enforce it. What I would say was successful is on our website, we did have advisories and also, multiple publications on there that did at least instruct bikes that if they were going to use the sidewalk to walk. So that, you can't enforce it.
Why can't you enforce it?
It's not something that's enforceable.
You're gonna have traffic cops at the key intersections on either side of the bridge. They see somebody pedaling down a pedestrian sidewalk. Why can't they wave them over and give them a ticket?
I'm gonna just say what I typically say about that. If folks want a traffic detail, they want a traffic detail, which is using the cop to pull the traffic through the intersection, avoid blocking the box. There's only so much they can do at a time, I think is what, Steve was trying to get to. Yes, sir. If it was illegal to be a jerk, a lot of Boston would have to. Yes, sir.
So, yeah, I'm just curious from a pedestrian standpoint as well. Are you working with a DCR to try and work and keep the locks open, the walkway over there? Because that's another really good connection between Charlestown and the North End or the Garden. There's a lot of people going back and forth to events. There's parking over there. So just being able to try and keep those locks and there's another alternative walkway over would be really helpful.
We're in regular contact with DCR.
Obviously, when it's rain, they have to open the locks,
Sure.
let the water out.
No, absolutely.
They're open. So they control the locks to let the water out. They're not going to keep them closed.
No, I don't expect it to be all the time, but definitely they do improvements. It would be nice to be able to flag that so that we know when they're closed, but to be able to try and keep those open as much as possible. It's a great alternative and it keeps people away from the construction that's going on. I think that would be really advantageous for you and your contractor as well.
One last thing, what about a temporary walking bridge, somewhere near the box, something? Maybe just have a temporary.
So the temporary bridge has a sidewalk, so I think you heard earlier that I think the temporary bridge is cost neutral, so if you keep having temporary bridges, it ceases to be cost neutral. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yes, another suggestion, how about in addition to please walk your bike, do under surveillance?
I don't know if that's in the MUTCD.
Curbing is actually still been around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Not to be a dead horse, but I'm not stuck on that 4-lane thing. You know, if you eliminated the sidewalk and built a footbridge, which is a lot easier and feasible to just the foot traffic, it'd make that 4-lane.
I think the other thing that, and there are issues with, where you tie it back in. So, one of the things about pedestrians, like all the rest of us, you ever been down to Boston Common and you see, hey, there's a perfectly good sidewalk going over there, but instead there are people, drilling a path through the grass. But when it comes to pedestrians, and we get this from the pedestrian advocacy community all the time, it's the most direct path of travel possible. So we're already diverting pedestrians a little bit. They're going to bend out. But again, converse. So, there's something to run into. So we've kept it as close as we can to path of travel without running into buildings, other bridges, boats, the locks, etc.
I'm going to accept that one.
Thank you. Great. Going once, going twice? All right, everybody, visit me tomorrow night in the West End.